Hello, my friends. Welcome. My name is Joe. This is the Joe Martino Show. And today we're going to talk about mental health awareness. But let's be honest, I don't know that we need to be more aware. What we need is a few action steps that are like, hey, what do I do when I don't think I need counseling, but I also don't think my mental health is right where I want it to be? Let's kick it off. This is the Joe Martino Show. To me, we live in a strange time. We live in a world where everything has to have its month. There's this awareness month, that awareness month. I remember one time I did something, I said something about Autism Awareness Day, and one of my colleagues to be was like, I have a friend who her daughter has autism and she hates this day. Oh, okay, well, I have a friend whose daughter has it and they love it, right? But we've got to have awareness for everything. We have awareness for mental health. We're going to improve everybody's mental health if we name May Mental Health Awareness Month. And as a therapist, I should be excited about this, right? Well, here's the thing. We're already aware. We know anxiety is up. We know people are struggling. We know life feels heavier than it used to be. We know that we have put more time, more energy, more money, more resources into mental health, and it really isn't going that well. The outcomes aren't that great, by and large, and we don't really talk about that because here's the thing: awareness by itself doesn't change anything. It doesn't change a doggone thing. This episode isn't about raising awareness. I'm not interested in sharing this with you so we raise awareness for mental health, because I'm not actually interested in that because it doesn't change anything. I do want to talk about what actually helps when your mental health isn't what it used to be, or it isn't where you want it to be. What do we do then? Because a lot of what we do, I think one of the reasons it's not working that well is because a lot of what we do actually traps us. It actually gets us stuck. And so let's talk about how we get unstuck. And then next week, we're actually going to talk about 5 things that we can do when we do feel stuck to generate movement. I can't wait for that episode to drop. Now let's take a moment to kind of cover some of the, what I feel are like goes without saying, but we need to say them. First of all, here's what we're not talking about today. You struggling doesn't mean you're broken. I feel like I say that all the time. Struggling is part of life. Life has ups and downs. Life has seasons where we will have good mental health and where we will have bad mental health. Life has seasons where we will find things that are moving well and we find it challenging and growing. And then there will be other times where life is really hard and we feel like it's overwhelming and we're stuck. And you struggling doesn't mean you're broken. When you're struggling, it doesn't mean that your life is over. It literally, as long as you're breathing, you have the opportunity to heal and to make movement. It probably does mean that you need to shift your attention to some things. So you need to take your attention and you need to ask yourself some things, and then you need to generate some movement, because your mental health is influenced by how you think, what you do, and how you respond to life. And this is why any of you who have been long-term listeners, I consistently say, I am not a believer that anything makes you feel anything. There's a middle step there that says you believe something about what happened or about what was said or about what was done, and that belief generates your feeling. So my kids are not allowed to say, oh, that makes me anxious. No, that happened and I felt anxious. And we can even say I felt anxious because I believed I could get hurt. And maybe that's a real belief. Maybe that's an accurate belief. But the problem is when we say, well, that makes me feel anxious, we've now given that thing power over our emotions. And what happens is now our feelings run our lives, our circumstances run our lives, because our circumstances run our feelings. Your emotions are real, but they're not random. They didn't just like, oh, there it is, woo, show up. They're connected to how you interpret what's happening and what you believe about it. And that is good news, because that is the key to better mental and emotional health. So let's talk about a few things that are common traps, right? Common beliefs that are common traps. Well, number one, we tend to believe that we have to feel better before we can do anything. This is a belief that keeps us trapped. It creates more anxiety. It creates more stress. It keeps us stuck. Number two, the false belief that our feelings are the thing that we must identify with. And you'll hear people say this: I am anxious, I am depressed, right? Instead of I am wrestling with anxiety, I am fighting depression, I have depression. Any of those, we have a belief that we have to identify with our feelings in order to validate them, which is just insanity to me. The belief that we can consume enough content that will perpetuate us into change. And that's true. Look, that's true even for podcasts. And of course, I want you to listen to my podcast. I want you to consume this. I want you to share it. I want a lot of people to consume it. I hope to help a lot of people. And to be honest with you, I want to sell books. And one of the best ways that I can do that is to have one of these. I've never hidden that. But here is the thing. If you only consume content, or you have a belief that consuming content will somehow drive you to change, you're going to stay stuck. Here's one that's going to get me in trouble, and I know it is. I thought about doing a whole episode on this. Calling everything trauma or labeling everything instead of addressing it. In other words, we have this false belief that anything you didn't like was trauma. I literally had somebody tell me that they had parental trauma, and I was like, okay, well, tell me, what does that mean? And they were like, well, when I was 16, my dad caught me drinking, and he grounded me for a month. He took away my car, and he spanked me. Now, they said he hit me, and I was like, okay, well, tell me what that means. And they're like, well, he spanked me. I'm like, okay, so the spanking thing, I'm anti-spanking. I've said that before, but not everything is trauma. Not everything that you dislike is trauma. And when we make everything that we dislike trauma, anytime something's hard, we have trauma, and then we're stuck. Understanding your problem is not the same thing as doing something about it. And understanding that there is trauma in the world is not the same thing as doing something about it. We have this belief that, well, if it's trauma, I can just stop. Well, if it's trauma, I mean, that's what I just had a men's group this morning, and we were talking about how many people are bad at being an adult because, well, their parents were bad at it. Well, nope, that's a false belief. And these things get us stuck. Now, this does beg a question. What do we do to overcome these traps, right? Well, I'm going to give you some things to think about. Number one, move your body. Like, literally get exercise. And exercise can be walking. It doesn't mean you have to go to the gym and, lift free weights and do all that. You don't have to get on a treadmill and set it to 11 and, 11 angle and run it as fast as you can go so that you do it for 30 seconds and take your legs off and it's spinning so loud that everybody in the gym hears it. You don't have to do anything. You can just go for a walk. There's so much research that shows that when you go for a walk, you improve your mental health just a little bit. Right? You can stretch. You could lift weights if you find that helpful. But do something that reminds your body you get to move. It's a great time of year. We're in May. If you like to fish, go fishing. If you want to go sit by the river, go sit by the river. If you want to have a bonfire outside and it's legal where you live, then do that, right? Like, go out and do something. I can't tell you how important that is. But we want to talk about controlling your body, right? So we want to move. We want to exercise. We want to make sure that we're hydrated. Increase your water intake. People laugh at this, but my wife and I have 5 points that we'll often go over with people who come in and they're, hey, look, I'm struggling with depression and nothing's working. The first 2 things we go after is check your sleep and tell me about your sleep hygiene. And I'm a big advocate of the 45 minutes before you go to sleep doing the same thing. How often do you move and how often do you stay hydrated? And we talk about nutrition and mindfulness as well. But I'm always interested in how often do you move? If you want to do something to improve your mental health right now, May 6th, and during Mental Health Awareness Month, go take a walk. Go sit by a river. Go sit by a tree. Take in nature, and it will help you. Number 2, clean up your inputs, right? And this is scrolling. Look, if you find yourself constantly getting angry when you're scrolling reels in Facebook or Instagram, then stop. Like, I don't mean to be Bob Newhart, but stop. Just don't do that. Dial that out. But another input to consider is what's your food look like? And I'm not an advocate for not eating anything that's bad for you. If you know me, you know that. If you can see me, you know that. My wife has decided that she's going to, change some things in her diet, which is awesome. Good for her. I'm here to support that. And at the same time, hey, let's go to Culver's and get this chocolate peanut butter milkshake that they have because it is amazing. And is that good for me? I don't know. I read a study this week that said diabetics who eat ice cream twice a week are less likely to have an A1C above the danger zone. So maybe it's bad for me. But, there is always that research that I'm banking on. The other thing is I like it. And it helps me then to control the other things I eat. And so we want to take a look at our inputs. What are we consuming? What are the conversations we're having? One of the things, I had a coworker one time that only listened to angry music. Not coincidentally, he was very angry and threw his keys through a break-proof window one time. It was wild. He shattered the window, but it didn't break because it was break-proof. Right? So we want to clean up our inputs. We want to make sure that what's going in is healthy or helpful to us. First thing we want to do is we want to move. Then we want to look at our inputs and clean up appropriately. Clean up appropriately. I can't stress that enough. Number 3, build your own agency. And I don't mean like an agency. I mean this clinically, right? When we say agency clinically, goodness, imagine if I could talk. When we say agency clinically, what we mean is you control you. Your agency is your ability to control yourself. So do one hard thing a day. There was a time in my life where I only read fictional books and then like books that I had to read for school or work. And I knew that I was missing out on something by not reading biographies and memoirs. And so I would just say, I read a lot. So I would say for every 3 books I read that are just fiction, I'm going to read one biography, or I'm going to read one memoir, or one, fictional, or one historical book. And now when I look at my list, it's about a 50-50 split. The one thing is I can read fiction far faster, and it tends to be a little bit shorter. So that helps. Right? But by building agency, what you do is you start to build your confidence, because confidence doesn't come from just thinking differently. One of the areas where I think we've gotten it wrong in modern day therapy is we only go after your thinking, and sometimes we don't even do that. We just validate you in thinking that's getting you stuck. Confidence comes from doing things you weren't sure you could do. Confidence comes from doing things that you were scared to do. Confidence comes from doing hard things. So go do one hard thing. And if you're like, I can't do 7 hard things a week because one hard thing a day would mean 7 hard things a week. Okay, can you do 3? And if you say yes to that, then and you're in my room, I would automatically push you to say, well, how about we do 4 then? How about we do 4? Build your confidence by doing hard things. You can do it. The question is, are you willing to fail enough times to do it? And I'm going to take a moment and be, I'm going to be vulnerable to you here. As an adult, I still struggle with this. And it's weird because I will do hard things professionally. I'll write a book, I'll start a podcast, and I'll struggle. I'll live in that struggle. It's stuff like if I'm building something, if I'm working on something, and it goes wrong, and I realize it goes wrong because I did something that I should have known not to do, or I just didn't work. I'm like, and I don't always react with it, right? The difference between having a feeling and reacting with it. But I'll feel the big feeling. And it's funny to me because my son is 13 and I watch him and he doesn't at all. And we have different inputs. But like, it's just something I have to be able to, I have to be able to admit so that I can move forward in it. Getting a camper was one of the things that helped me quite a bit, because if you have a camper, it always needs something worked on, and that can be expensive. So I just start, okay, I'm going to work on this. I'm going to work on that. I don't know how to do that, but I can bring over a friend who can help me. A couple years ago, we needed a generator. We live out in the country. We lose power. And I was like, okay, well, we got a generator, but I don't know where to keep it so that the kids can get to it if I'm gone and hook it up. So I built a cover for it. That is not the best built cover. I missed part of it. And this is where I say I struggle, because this didn't bother me. I didn't frame it right. And now I'm like, oh, okay, well, when that dies, when that breaks or is ruined, and I need to build a new one, I'll know to frame it differently. So that's why it's a struggle. And I like to use that story because that shows how you build agency. You build agency by doing things and being okay with the failure, and recognizing that you're not always going to be okay with the failure. And that can be hard. Number 4, solve what needs to be solved by having the hard conversation, whether that's with yourself or with someone else. You set the right boundaries, and remember, boundaries are for you, not for someone else. Right? Everybody else is free to do what they want to do. You don't have to participate. But a lot of anxiety is about unresolved tension. So make the decision. Either go talk to the person or decide how you're going to handle that. And this, again, is where we've gotten in trouble, where like we just want to cut people out and not talk to them, and we avoid them. And we're like, well, I'm an avoidant attacher, or, oh, well, I'm an anxious attacher. Okay. So here's the thing. Do you want to stay that way, or do you want to change? Because if you want to change, you will have to have the hard conversation. You will have to set the hard boundary. You will have to take the hard step. And that's okay. That is okay. I can't say that enough. That is okay. That is okay. That is okay. How many times can I say that to where maybe it gets in? But you have to go have that hard conversation. Stop avoiding the thing you're afraid of, because most of the time, once you actually get into it, it won't be as bad as you thought. It'll actually probably be far, far less difficult than you thought it would be. Number 5, shrink the day. Now, here's the thing. What we actually want you to do is you don't have to solve your whole life. You don't have to solve your whole life. You just have to figure out what's the right step for me to try right now. I don't have to know for sure where I'm going to be in 5 years. I don't have to know for sure where I'm going to be in 10 years. I can have ideas and I can have goals and I can have things that I'm aiming for, but I don't have to have that figured out to do today. I don't even have to know for sure how today's going to go for me to try something. Just start going, see where it goes. For instance, I try to record my podcast in bunches. And so today I came with 3 hats. That's how my editor and I typically know the different episodes. I mean, we put them in different folders, but I wear a different hat for each episode. I'm going to leave only having used 2 of the hats because I didn't know how the whole day was going to go. And I need to go do some things for some people that I told them I would do. And I'm not going to be able to do them tomorrow. So I got to get them done today. Right. So we're going to move on and we're going to record those other podcasts at a future date. So we're just going to shrink the day. We're going to solve what's right in front of us with an eye towards what's in the future. But if we can't figure that out completely, we're not going to let it stop us. That will help our mental and emotional health. Now, I am a licensed therapist. I do have a responsibility, I feel, to touch on some things, though, because I'm not against counseling. Clearly, I'm not against counseling. I have a full week coming up. I want people to come in. I want people to get help. But I do think we need to talk about, okay, when do you need to see a therapist? And this is for individuals, not for couples. It could be for couples. But there are times when you need more than self-help. And that's okay. That doesn't mean you're broken either. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you either. It just means that you have encountered something that you need help with. And so persistent depression, if you are persistently depressed, if you are thinking about self-harming yourself, how's that for repetitive? If you are engaging in thoughts of self-harm, if you can't get out of your house or you can't not volunteer, those are both sides of the same coin of depression, then you need to seek counseling. Now, here's the thing. If you're sad over the weekend, that doesn't mean you had depression. It just means you were sad. If you're sad for a week, that doesn't necessarily mean you had depression. We've really shortened the criteria for that clinically. And so I have to be careful what I say, but I'm old enough to remember when it needed to be 2 months because human emotions are vast and our ups and downs can be big swings. And that doesn't mean anything necessarily. But if you have persistent depression, I would encourage you, seek out one-to-one counseling, seek out talk therapy. If you have severe anxiety, seek out help. And anxiety, there are people, they can't leave their house. They can't, they can't function at the grocery store because noises create an anxious response in them. Okay, that's fine. That is trouble for you, but we can help you through that. There are therapists that can help you through that. It's really important that if you're struggling with, this anxietizing issues or depressive issues, that you seek out therapy. Your trauma response could be an indicator that you need to seek out therapy. And, a lot of times I hate the term trauma response. I say that too much. I hate, but I really dislike that term. I dislike the term trauma response because I hear it so often of, well, that's just my trauma response. Oh, well, that's just my trauma response. Yeah, okay, but you're still responsible for your behaviors. And if your trauma response is hurting other people or it's hurting you, go get help. Here's the thing. There are people that are just evil, and I don't know why. But there are a lot of the people who hurt people, it's because they were hurt, and their trauma response and their hurt became their identity, and they didn't do the work to get healthy. And because of that, their trauma response became a weapon that hurt other people in their lives. Don't let that be you. Don't let that be you. You go do talk therapy, one-on-one therapy, and get help. And then something we have to consider is, how is this impacting my daily functioning? Is my anxiety, my trauma response, my depressing, are those things impacting my daily functioning? And if they are, that used to be kind of the tipping point for how we would diagnose people. I remember in the DSM-4, when we would diagnose people, there was actually a quality of life that we had to consider as clinicians, and we had to give you a score, and then part of our mandate in helping you was to improve that score. And you can do that now because you have to decide how much of my daily life is what I want, and going to therapy can help that if it's more than what I don't want. Now, there's going to be work involved, and I always tell people I don't fix people. I give them tools and they decide what they're going to do with them and all of those things. But getting help isn't weakness, it's responsibility. in any other thing, if like my knees hurt. So I went to the doctor and we did all these things. I took shots, did PT for as long as I could. Eventually they were like, hey, you need surgery. Okay, so I got the surgery. And then literally the surgery was on a Friday. On Monday, a physical therapist showed up because I needed help doing these exercises. I learned how to do those exercises for 2 weeks. And then I started going twice a week to outpatient therapy where they didn't come to my house. I went to them, and I'm still doing that. And that isn't weakness. That is me saying, hey, there's something wrong with my leg, something wrong with my knee. How do we fix it? And it's kind of the same thing with mental health. There are times we have to just say, hey, there's something going on with my mental health that I can't figure out and I need help. And that's what one-on-one talk therapy does. Okay, so hopefully this episode, kicks off May as Mental Health Awareness Month, but does more than just awareness. Hopefully you have a couple action steps that you can take out of this episode and you can do something with, because you don't have to fix everything. You don't have to completely understand and overhaul your entire life. You just need to know, what am I paying attention to? And how am I evaluating things and making appropriate changes? Because mental health improves the same way that most things do, with small, consistent action over time. When you are boringly consistent, you will see growth. You'll see the most growth in anything. Anything you do, be boringly consistent and you'll see growth. Hey, if this episode helps you today, would you be willing to share it with a friend? I can't tell you how much that helps me and how much I appreciate it. And if you liked it, maybe throw it up on one of your social medias. Remember, you don't have to fix everything. Just pick the first step and go. Tune in next week, and we're going to actually talk about what happens when I've done this and now I feel stuck. Thanks so much for listening. We'll catch you next week.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please share with a friend. And hey, give us that rating in your podcast store. Until next time, change possible.